31 Ghosts, written by Dr. Gallo. Somewhere, there is an old and empty town where nobody ever goes. It doesn't appear on any map, and it's just far enough away from its closest neighbors that travelers and tourists seldom notice it, and those who do drive on. The people who live in those neighboring towns know well enough to stay away, especially after dark. What few visitors have ventured to its border have not stayed long. There is a sickness to it, they say. An atmosphere that is unquestionably unwelcoming for humans or, indeed, any living thing. No birds fly above, and no animals can be heard in the woods and fields around it. The empty buildings have rotted and warped over time. Wooden barns creak like old bones and lean over oddly where their sides have sunk ever deeper into the ground beneath. The earth is very soft here, so soft for buried secrets to scrabble their way back out. But that's for later. The few brick houses are always dark, even during the day. The windows remain largely and uncharacteristically intact for such an abandoned place, save for those the elements have cracked and shattered. There are no children nearby brave enough to stone them out. There are sometimes pale faces behind the panes in upstairs rooms, they say. In the center of the town lies its church. It was a simple affair in its glory, and an even simpler one now without his followers trudging through it, bearing their souls to admonish themselves of responsibility for their thoughts and deeds. To look at it, you would think he had forgotten his house here, along with the town. Perhaps you'd be right. The pumpkins they carved all those years ago. The paper lanterns and cutouts of ghosts and spiders blown away to naught. The banners and straw witches are all gone. There is nothing left to remind anyone what night it was when that little town turned sour. But there are still a few who do remember all the same. They had banded together to make it one they would never forget. The children had dressed themselves in spooky and devilish finery. The adults had made sure the store had ordered in beer and booze in plentiful supply. They laid out the tables under the light of the moon, in what passed for the town square, and had themselves the very best of times. Preparation of the food was a shared and joyous burden, a veritable feast of local dishes made from the freshest local ingredients, including old Uncle Jonah's mushroom broth. All 31 of them had left for bed with a belly full, and the taste of it lingering on their tongues, but none had been allowed to help make it. It's a secret family recipe, he'd said. Had anyone else been allowed about his stove, they might have noticed the odd shape of the mushrooms, where his aged eyes had failed, and seen that they were not, in fact, mushrooms at all. That same night, the poison sickness came and took them, one one by one. Women and men, boys and girls and babies screamed as they twisted and cramped and bled in their blankets. By morning, there were 31 dead bodies, and left behind by those cold, ruined vessels, 31 ghosts. The ones that hadn't gone to the party, the ones who lived, didn't stick around to spoil town for very much longer. They were the first to hear the whispers and giggles in otherwise empty rooms, or see children they knew to be dead staring at them intently from dark street corners by night. They were the first to feel cold fingers about their throats while they slept, and to wake up choking in the dark. Soon, the town was home to none but the dead. And the living, well, they kept their unspoken promises to one another and honored that covenant born of fear and tempered by a longing to forget. They didn't speak of that night while they made their new homes, nor did they tell a single soul about the things that now dwelt in those abandoned, unlit streets. Until one of them did. If you were to ask him, Barry wouldn't have been able to tell you why he decided to tell the guy behind the bar about it all on a sunny afternoon. He had no survivor's guilt. What had happened to those people was just something that happened to those people, he'd always thought. Carrying the secret with him was no burden. The reason he persisted in keeping the secret like the others was because, like the others, he just knew that telling it was the wrong thing to do. More than that, it was a bad thing to do. For many years, the thought of telling anyone about it made him anxious. He felt a tremendous sense of foreboding when it crossed his mind, as if to tell the tale would mean consequences he didn't fully understand. But here he was, his caution depleted by 3.5 gin and tonics, and he spilled his guts to the barman about it all. The Halloween festivities, the broth, the horror of that next morning, and the night thereafter, when he got out of the bathtub to find lots of little baby handprints all over the inside of the steamed-up bathroom window. Barry finished his 4th drink and made his way home. And he didn't really think too much about what he'd done at all after that. The bartender thought about the story a lot, for not one night passed after his encounter with Barry before he, too, started to see the tiny handprints all around the windows and surfaces of his apartment. It was the ones that appeared, slapping into the mirror as he shaved, that really got to him, and he gave himself a nasty cut under the jawline. When his wife saw the blood, she asked him how he'd managed to do it so deep. And he told her the whole story all over again. And there it was. Another thread. Another strain out there in the world. It was a year before the bartender fell off the stepladder. He was tired. The awful wailing kept him awake most nights, and the unseen things that pushed his coffee mugs off the counter to smash against the kitchen floor at least a couple of times a week were determinedly cruel. Whether he wobbled and fell in sheer exhaustion, or was given a nudge by a hidden hand, only he could tell you. But the truth died with him when his temple cracked against the coffee table edge as he landed. The light bulb in his hand went unbroken. The bartender's ex-wife is still in the convent. She doesn't speak to anyone anymore, and her sisters presume she has taken a vow of silence. In truth, she so desperately wants the things that drove her from her home to leave her alone that she keeps her mouth shut so as not to attract their attention. After she left home, and her husband with it, and before she stopped talking, she told a friend from work what had been going on. She told him that it had all started with the bartender's chance encounter with a stranger one day, and that damnable story he'd told. She related as best she could remember, and within the week, her friend had cut his own wrists once the dead man with the black, lolling tongue who stared at him from the foot of his bed had become too much to bear. There are fewer than 31 ghosts in that town now. Soon they'll all be gone, unchained and eager to spread their misery to the living. Their freedom comes from a simple transaction. Their story listened, the listener solved.
Margaret Thompson, write in the book, please. Are you a good ghost, Margaret Thompson, or a bad ghost? Margaret Thompson, write in the book.
The latest escapee has traveled very far to keep up their end of the bargain. He was despicable in life, and the townsfolk had no clue as to the horrors he perpetrated on the unwary waifs and strays he managed to entice into his parlor. He had a penchant for restraints and rusty tools and hiding in the dark. One can only imagine how keen he will be to meet someone who can bleed again. He didn't send his thanks, but I'm sure he'll pass them on directly, and Very, very soon, dear listener.
Where are you?
I'm close.
Welcome back. I've prepared some jobs for you.